Welcome to your Wordless podcast, the space where we redefine success, self-worth, and transformation. I am Nick Nieras, the soul-centered architect of transformation, helping you unlock your highest potential and build a legacy beyond limits. Now, whether it is self-mastery, career breakthroughs, or wealth creation, this is where change begins. Now, let's dive in. Dr. Deborah, good evening
I'm
to
doing
you.
well,
How are you?
thank you. Thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you so much for saying yes to be interviewed. I would like to introduce myself formally. My name is Nicolette. I am the creator for the podcast titled You're Worthless. Read that again. The juxtaposition of your very soul. Now, before we start off our interview, I'd like to read your introduction for our listeners, and then we can deep dive into aging and mentorship today. So, hello everyone. We have Dr. Deborah Heiser here with us. Dr. Deborah is the CEO, founder of the Mentor Project, author of the Mentorship Edge, and an applied developmental psychologist. She has been featured at TEDx, Goldsmith 100 Coaches, Thinkers 50 Radar List, Psychology Today, and is also an adjunct professor in the psychology department at SUNY Old Westbury. Her research covers a wide range of topics related to aging, including depression identification, dementia, and frailty, with grants awarded from National Institute of Health and Pfizer. So, Dr. Deborah, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for
Thank
saying
you for
yes.
having me. I'm delighted to be here.
So, Dr. Deborah, before we get into the real nitty-gritty of things, can you first share with us what was it like growing up as a Deborah Heiser?
Well, growing up, I originally am from Iowa, which is the middle of the United States, and I moved with my family when I was young to New York, and I never really thought I never really thought about my future. I never really thought about going to college. I never really thought about, I'm going to get married or have kids one day. I just kind of, was floating through life and living day to day. And, when I got to about 19, I went to visit my grandmother, and she lived in Florida. And I was sort of floundering around with what I wanted to do. I wasn't sure if I wanted to, work in an office, maybe become an administrative assistant or do something, like that. I just didn't know. And I went down to visit her, and she was depressed. And this is a person who was always super fashionable. She was always she always had the cutest clothes. I could go down there and never had to worry about packing anything. I could just wear what she had. And one day I went down, and she wasn't herself. She was grouchy and irritable and wasn't cute looking. She was just sort of disheveled. And so I asked someone where she lived. She was in an independent living place. And they said, she is taking a new medication. She's depressed. I didn't even know what that was. And so I said, well, what's going to happen? And they said, don't worry, we're going to fix her. The next time you come down to visit her, she should be better. And so the next time I went down to visit her, a few months later, she was completely back to herself. And it was such an epiphany for me. I was completely put on track with what I wanted to do. I said, that's it. I'm going to fix grandmas. Whatever the psychology stuff is that you're talking about, I'm in. So I'm going to study older adults. I'm going to study aging, and I'm going to make sure that grandmas everywhere are happy. And so I switched my major. I, took the extra time to get my degree. And then I went to work in a psychiatric hospital on a depression, looking at depression research. And that was my first step into becoming a researcher on all the things no one ever wants to have or get, with like depression and frailty and dementia. And from there, I thought, well, that's it. I'm going to keep researching this. I was doing lots of research. It was really great. I wrote a book on, palliative care at the end of life. I was not the life of a dinner party. So when I went to a dinner party at one point, somebody said, "So what do we have to look forward to, Miss Aging Specialist?" And I was like,
That's a
I
good one.
don't know. Like, what do you mean? And that was another aha moment for me because I didn't want to look forward to what I was studying. I didn't want to look forward to those things. So nobody at that time in the 90s was talking about anything to do, and even early 2000s, anything that was positive with aging. Everyone was afraid of Alzheimer's disease. Everyone was sure they were going to, worried they were going to suffer from Alzheimer's disease once they got older. Aging was a scary concept. And so I pivoted and went back to the research to see what do we have to look forward to. And I was shocked. There was tons. Nobody was talking about it. There was a lot. So I looked at the theories and the people who were doing research on the theories, and I found out, wow, we can expect to be happier when we grow older. And we have all these developmental milestones that we reach throughout our lifespan that don't stop when we're 12. They stop at the very end of our lives. And I landed on midlife, looking at the point where we want to give back. And I was like, why would we want to give back? That doesn't make sense to me. We want to take in. Who wants to do that? And then I realized that was probably one of the most powerful life stages that we have. And that's where it led me really to, move in the direction of where I am now with everything that I'm studying and researching. So that's kind of a long story of my life as Deborah Heiser since I was a little.
I love how you summarize everything up, the origin of what got you into aging, being an expert in aging, studying into it. It's the cause is pulling you towards that direction. Like I mean, when you were saying it, I had so many branches that I could go into. Like, number one, you don't know when you're a kid. I mean, everybody's like out there to say you should have a purpose. Like, at least I imposed that on me. But then you, up until 19, you were still like cruising through life and just taking it in. And then when you saw the condition that your grandma had, that's like, okay, wow, I gotta go do it. So there's also one lesson there that, you don't have to stress so much. Things can fall into your life if you're meant to do that. And then the second part of it, that you pivoted to now working on, what do you look forward to towards when you're aging now? I again, me, I have this thing that I like to control everything, the outcomes in my life. So I try to plan everything since I was a kid. Like, okay, by 30, I should have this,
Yeah.
my checklist checked off. And well, it didn't happen that way. Things turned out differently, and right now I'm restarting. So yeah, but today it's about you, Dr. Deborah Heiser. Now, we went from aging to now the mentorship, right? That's the later part of your work. So let's start first with aging. Now, I saw this word,
Yeah.
generativity.
That's the
What
thing
is
that
that?
connects aging and mentoring. So most people say to me, like, okay, well,
Mm,
why are you doing you went from aging, now you're doing mentoring. No, mentoring is part of aging. And generativity is that midlife stage where we are built, just like walking and talking. It's an emotional stage where we're built to want to give back without receiving anything in return from someone. So the way I like to think of it is, if someone has a baby and the baby cries in the night and somebody gets up to take care of the baby, they don't say, "Oh, you better do something for me tomorrow, little baby." Like, no, we love the baby. And,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
we're
I
like
love that
happy.
too.
Yeah,
As if.
they require work and effort and energy, but we love them and we don't expect anything in return. They do not have to go clean something afterwards or do something for us. So generativity is the one thing that I can say to people who haven't hit midlife yet, that it's like that it's something that you are just compelled to do. And so there are three ways that we can engage in generativity, where you're giving back all, like you said, all of those boxes, the purpose that you had, that like sits inside of us like we're Tupperware. It doesn't go anywhere. We just keep doing stuff and learning stuff and putting stuff in ourselves. Well, at a certain point, we get driven to give it back. And we can do that through mentoring, volunteering, and philanthropy. Those are the three forms of generativity. And a lot of us do all of them. But mentoring is the one where you're taking a piece of you that matters to you and giving it back. And it doesn't have to just be work or what you've learned in school. It's our cultures, it's our traditions, it's our values. So anybody who practices a religion, where did that come from? That came from centuries of people passing it down, generation after generation, so that what you're doing is very similar to what somebody was doing a long time ago. Those stories don't change. The same with any kind of a value that you have. That's why you'll say, well, I'd like to pass on a value to my children or to other people in the community so that, whatever I believe in will move forward. So that's part of our culture. So these are things that we're driven to do, but we overlook it and just take it for granted. And so, when we think of generativity and this milestone, it's probably one of the most important ones that we can focus on, because it's your footprint in the world. It's where you show your relevance. It is a legacy for many. And it's also the part that makes us feel useful and productive and that we mattered. So it's an aha moment for every mentor who knows that they've changed some part of somebody's life or a community or something out there. You finally have that aha moment that, wow, I'm bigger than myself.
I love that. So now I've not mentored. I've talked to so many coaches and mentors, right? So in your opinion, what is the difference between a mentor and
I'll give you the definition, and I will tell you, you do mentor. You're doing right now a form of modern mentoring.
Hi, I'm Nick Nieras, your host of the Your Worthless podcast. Now, if these real raw stories hit home, don't wait. Please follow, like, and subscribe my Spotify and YouTube. For bite-sized inspirational reels, follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Don't wait. Your transformation starts today. Thank you, and bye for now.
When the definition came about for mentoring, we didn't have technology that we have now. But when you're doing your podcast, what are you doing? You're taking your knowledge, information, expertise, values, culture, all of that, and it's getting out to people that listen to you. That is a way of doing that most people have no idea. But that's you being a mentor. So however many people listen to you, you're mentoring. But here's what mentoring is. You first need generativity. So you need somebody who wants to give something, and you also have to have somebody who wants to receive it. So you could say, hey, I want to give something, say it's a podcast, and then nobody listens. That's not mentoring. But if you even have just one person that you're connected with, then that's mentoring, right? That's a relationship. It has to be a connection where somebody wants to receive what's being given and what's, somebody that wants to give. The second thing is it needs to be something that's intrinsically motivated. So you can't want to if you're looking to get paid for it, then it's not mentorship. So if it's part of your job and you're doing it because you think, if I don't do this, I'm not going to get promoted, or if I don't do this, someone will think that I'm not getting as far as I need to do. So both the mentor and mentee have to be doing it for an intrinsically motivated reason. So that's like if I said to you, hey, Nicolette, would you like to go volunteer your time at a soup kitchen, giving food and beverage to hungry, thirsty people? You might say, yeah, I'd like to do that. It makes me feel really good. Tons of people do this. Now, if I said, instead of going to the soup kitchen, go and volunteer your time at Starbucks, you might say, oh, that doesn't feel so good. I would rather get paid to work at Starbucks. Well, like everyone else, same exact activity, but there's a different feel to them when there's an extrinsic motivator. So people who are, mentoring would feel exploited if they are not getting paid while everyone else is, or it's expected of them in some way, like you would if you were volunteering at Starbucks. So we also need the meaningful connection. That's the third thing. You have to like the person that you're engaged with. In the case of you, if you're on a podcast, you're not going to know the person. The person listening to you might have a meaningful connection to you and say, what she says resonates with me. So it's a weaker form of mentorship, but it's still mentoring. But we do want a two-way, if we can have it, mentoring relationship, so that the mentor and the mentee care about each other. And we also need trust. This is one of the big ones, just like intrinsic motivation is also a kind of a big one that people forget about. And that the trust is that you have to trust that the mentor is not going to judge you and say, oh my gosh, they don't know that. I'm not going to give them a raise. I'm not going to promote them. Or, you know what? I want to fire them. My goodness, I had no idea they didn't know that. Or that if you, and this is in the workplace, this is also in any other place, it could be, this sort of trust that needs to happen. Likewise, if you're the mentor, you need to trust that that person is going to take what you're giving and they're not just going to throw it on the ground, because that's your legacy. That's your value. That's your meaning. You are giving something really important to somebody else, and that they also are not going to steal it and run away with it. So I talk to finance people all the time, and they're worried about mentorship because they say somebody's going to steal my idea or my account and run away with it. And finally, there has to be a goal. So it could be a one-off goal. Hey, I'd like to pick your brain about this. Can you give me some advice? And you do that, and that has a goal. I'd like to get the lay of the land of work. Can you show me the lay of the land in the office place? I'm new here. Or it could be one that develops and shifts over time because you have a long-standing relationship. So the difference with mentorship is it needs all of those ingredients. And coaching is usually paid. So if you're a coach, you're getting paid to do something that might look like mentoring, but it's not intrinsically motivated. So if you're getting paid to mentor, you're not a mentor. If you're at work and you're getting paid and you're saying, well, I'm coaching, but I also mentor too. No, you're being a good coach. You're doing all the things that might be involved in mentoring, but you're getting paid to do that. Not being a mentor does not diminish any of the qualities of coaching. It doesn't diminish the aspects of leadership. It's just that the motivation is different. And so when you look at it that way, coaching is paid, mentoring is not. If you look at an advisor, you see this in schools and colleges and universities, they're paid. They get paid to do their job. I get paid to advise students and what they should be doing. So can those turn into mentors? A mentoring relationship? Yes. You could be networking. That's not mentoring, but it could lead to you finding a mentor. You could start out coaching somebody and then it leads to a relationship not involved in pay. And then you continue, and that's mentoring. Advisors often continue their relationships with students once they exit the program, and that's mentoring. And that is where we see this gray area that makes that definition difficult for a lot of people. Sorry, that was long-winded.
Wow, I love that. No. I love that. No, you gave a very good point. Yesterday, I think 2 days back, a friend of mine asked me just a very simple question. So he was telling me like, "Hey Nick, I have a friend who's actually wanting to start a podcast. So knowing that I've started podcasting for about a year and a half, so kind of know like how to start it up." When he was telling me, he's like, he's shy, and although he works in the media industry, he's shy to just get the ball rolling. So I told him like, okay, why don't you give him asked him to give me a call. And then I told that friend, I said, Nick, this is, he was like, Nick, this is the friend. I said, okay, you ask him to reach out to me because if he wanted to, he would. And I was like, but then you said mentoring shouldn't feel like it's, how do I say this? It has to be like, to me, I'm now in dilemma whether I should ask him, approach him first, or wait for him to come to me because, well, if this is really what you want, you're intrinsically motivated to start your own and start sharing your voice, then you should. So, but right now,
No, that you brought up a beautiful point. There's something called lateral mentoring that I coined. I talk about it in the book that I wrote. And it's really a new concept that most people don't understand. And that is where the mentor or the mentee can be reaching out. It's where, your friend is not your boss and you're not your friend's boss. And you know that this guy needs mentoring, right? But he may feel vulnerable. Vulnerable is a form of trust. Like, oh my gosh, if I show my vulnerability, she's going to think I'm dumb, or she's going to think that I'm, not capable in some way. And nobody thinks that. It's just, but that's what a lot of us have inside of us. That's that trepidation. But if somebody says, hey, I would love to mentor you in this, I'm here. That's how the mentoring relationship can start. And that may be just what a person needs to be able to say, oh, I don't need to be vulnerable. I can open up to this person. I trust them. They're here to help me, and I'm going to gain so much. It's very hard for a lot of us to admit our vulnerabilities to somebody that we're not really, really close with. So your friend was the intermediary there and was sort of translating that to you. And you were like, of course I'd be willing to help. So yes, you are naturally wanting to mentor this person. You are intrinsically motivated to want to mentor this person. And if you were to reach out and say, hey, I'd like to mentor you, you would have all of the components that I mentioned, all 5 key components of mentorship, and would be laterally mentoring him. And it feels just like being a friend, doesn't it? It feels natural.
Yeah, exactly.
But once you know that you are a mentor and you are imparting something that's your expertise that you know so well, it feels like, oh, it's nothing, right? I do this. I've been doing it 1.5 years. And now you impart it to him. You get to now know that all of his success is due in part to you. How wonderful is that to know that?
Yeah.
So it's like such an amazing feeling.
I love. Yeah. Oh my gosh, thank you. I'm gonna go and message that friend and say, hey, because I texted him 2 days back, that friend intermediary, and then I told him, okay, if you want to, you would. And then if I think it's 2 days now, I'm gonna say, hey, I'll reach out to him then. Yeah, I heard you're needing help in this area. So what can I do? Okay, awesome.
I would challenge you, Nicolette. Sorry. Anytime you realize that someone did that for you, say thank you for mentoring me, because that person deserves to feel that like they know that you're carrying that bit of information, knowledge, expertise, values, or whatever it is. It's more powerful than any of us realizes. Any person who's been told they were a mentor, they cry. Like, it's very powerful. It's a really big deal.
Thank you for mentoring me about that, Dr. Deborah. I love it. I appreciate you. Okay. So, Dr. Deborah, what does aging have to do with mentorship?
Becoming a podcast host was a natural extension of my second act. Now, after spending 15 years in the corporate world, I've transitioned to helping individuals overcome challenges like navigating tough relationships, career burnout, and aligning their mission with their soul's calling. By certifying as an RTT hypnotherapist and a lifestyle coach, I've made it my mission to empower people to recreate the life they deserve. and building a supportive community through my podcast. Now, let me ask, are you facing challenges like struggling to reprogram your mind to attract wealth, weight issues that feel like a constant yo-yo, insomnia or restless nights from daily worries, or just a lack of confidence in public speaking? If the answer is yes, visit www.thenicknearholisticlifestyle.com and grab a free hypnosis audio of these common struggles. It's a sneak peek into how my coaching works. Are you feeling shy? Don't be, because I'm as real as it gets. Let's connect on Instagram and LinkedIn and start your transformation today.
So aging, as we age, we have a whole developmental trajectory that we travel. It's not just a physical one, it's an emotional one. And so as we hit a certain age, we are built to want to mentor. You know, we do it when we're younger, but by the time you hit midlife, you're really, really built to mentor. You feel like you're stuffed to the brim with stuff that you've been checking boxes all along. You've checked so many that you need to open up the lid and let it out. And so
Exactly.
That's
and going on podcast
Yes.
is one of it, right? I mean, becoming a host or becoming a guest as well, vice versa.
Yes,
Those are
exactly.
mentoring.
So that's how it's related to aging. Most of us don't think of that. They think of all the things that I originally was talking about with aging, like thinking about all the things that could be negative happening to us. But mentorship makes us happier. If you're connected with individuals meaningfully, you literally live a longer, physically healthier life. You also live a longer, emotionally more fulfilled, happier life. So it really is a very important part of our aging. And if we don't engage in it, we feel stagnant. We feel like our life is worthless, like we didn't ever matter, like the world could go right on without us and we never made an impact. It's a terrible feeling. The two are so very different in how we can feel. And so this is how it connects with aging.
Love that. What are the avenues of people can get involved with when they want to start mentoring?
They can do just what you did. You intuitively did it, right? You started podcasting. I say to people like you are with this friend, you look to your left and you look to your right. If you find somebody that needs help, you say, hey, I'm here to mentor you if you'd like. You can use a different term if that feels awkward. But you can say, hey, I'd love to help you. I know how to do this. Or you can look to your right and say, hey, I need help doing something new. I know you know how to do this. Can you help me? We do this constantly without thinking about it. So that's the one way that we can engage in it. And the other is if we are in a workplace, we should be thinking about if we feel too vulnerable to go to a boss or someone above us, to look at somebody else in the workplace and do just what you've been doing in your home life or personal life. And that is to ask people that you feel comfortable with who are not in competition with your job line, going up and down, but are people who, you can say, hey, can you help me with this? I know you have a different skill set. Can you take a look at what I'm doing and give me some feedback? Can you guide me? Can you give me the lay of the land of the workplace? It's endless. So if you ask somebody lateral to you, then there isn't that competitive feeling of, I better not tell that person because they might get the job over me if there's a promotion, that sort of thing. So I always tell people to look laterally in that way. So those are the ways that you can get engaged in it very naturally and easily, like you would make friends.
Oh, talk to us, Dr. Deborah, about your nonprofit, the Mentor Project. What is it?
So this came about similar to every other thing that's ever happened in my life by accident. So I happened to be talking to, it's just serendipitous. I do believe that. I do. I believe that. So I was out talking to people about being mentors. I was talking to grandmas and people in the military and really high level individuals also who'd done some world changing things. And one of these people was Bill Cheswick. And he's one of the fathers of the the network firewall. This is how we speak and can do things on the computer. When you safely bank and do all those things, say thanks, Bill. He was one of the guys that worked on that. So I was like, wait a second, Bill's going to have a hard time finding a mentee. This guy that people would pay to meet, his stuff is in like museums. So he was telling me he was getting ready to retire and he was going to move to live on a farm. And he said, I'm going to not have access to anybody. How am I going to mentor? And I was like, ooh, that's a rough one. You can't go to kids on a park and say, hey, you want a mentor? Like, that's not going to work. So I kept hearing more and more people saying that they couldn't connect with a mentee. And so I thought, gee, this is interesting. I've always heard of people not being able to find a mentor, but not high-level top 1% of people in their fields not being able to find a mentee. That's crazy. So we started with just Bill going into schools to see if, how that went. It was great. We were having a totally great time. And then 6 months later, it went to, God bless you, we went to 60 people again, and then 80, and then 100. So people had told me no one is ever going to want to sign up for this because we do it for free. Every person that is a mentee gets free mentorship from like astronauts, artists, astrophysicists, all these people for free. And so they said, nobody's going to sign up to do that. Mentors are too busy and too important. And, all these 1%ers are not going to do it. We have a waiting list. So the Mentor Project started based on looking at the theory of we are built to want to give back. And we've been able to show that people are built to want to give back because they don't get paid. They do it, because they want to. They feel really good about it. We've had amazing things. We had just in 2024, $3 million of mentorship that was given away to individuals. And they did things like patent their ideas. We had an artist fly from California to Tanzania to teach students cartooning in a small town in Tanzania. And then he went to Brooklyn at the end of the year to teach students there. We had 2 students that did high-level research that I did not do when I got my PhD. So a 15-year-old and a 17-year-old were working on learning how to do systematic review. And there are now peer-reviewed journal articles that are out because of that. And they presented that research at a national conference on mentoring. So the work that the mentors are doing is life-changing for the mentees. And the organization's real goal is it's mentor-focused, but to get their expertise out to people who want to have a life-changing experience.
Amazing. Who can join this mentor project?
There are a lot of different ways to get involved. As I mentioned, generativity is volunteering, mentoring, and philanthropy. And not everybody wants to mentor. So there are ways to volunteer. There are ways to fundraise to get our mentors in different places. We're starting mentor project satellite programs in different countries. We have a TMP Kenya. We have Tanzania. We're going to be starting in different states. So the biggest way is to allow us to do more programming. So if anybody wants to go to the website, they can. They can become a mentee. If they're a student, it's free. You just click the Become a Mentee button. And if you want to donate, that's super helpful. You can even say where and how you want it to, what you want it to go to. If you want to volunteer in some way, you can do that. So I urge anyone to involve themselves if they can with the Mentor Project, or do it on your own somewhere. Go look to your left and look to your right and get some mentoring done.
I love that, Dr. Deborah. The work you're doing is changing the world, one person at a time. Gosh, that's why I know you're the perfect fit for the show.
Thank you.
So, okay. So, okay, besides the mentor project, Dr. Deborah, what are you working on
So I
currently?
also coach. I'm a coach in addition to being a mentor. I teach at a university. I teach 2 courses each semester. I'm an adjunct. And I just wrote the book, The Mentorship Edge, which I'm really trying to make mentorship a movement. So I'm trying to move beyond just the mentor project and get the word out there that we should all be doing this because it helps everybody and it's free. And, it's one of those things that if we are connecting in a meaningful, good way, it really does make the world a better place. If you're connected with me now in New York and we have all of this big spider web of connections happening globally, we're going to really be uniting and we don't have to stop the wheel from turning with ideas. Every person is the most precious natural resource that we have. And if we neglect even one, we've burned down a library. And so I feel like we have to, rescue our precious resources, which is our elders and everyone else who has their Tupperware filled to get that connected with people who can use that information so that they're not, lost. Their legacy lives on.
Love that part when you said you burn down one person, it's like burning down one precious library. You take that one person. Ooh, that resonated so much. I got emotional.
People don't put that together, but every Thanksgiving in the United States, I make the same meal that is written in a handwritten card from my grandmother, who's no longer with us, the same meal. And everyone puts that, thinks, oh, it's nothing. We go through the motions. That was probably her mother's recipe. And it didn't hit me until my uncle came to stay with me. And he had been eating his wife's meal, not his mother's meal anymore. But he came and he said, it's my whole childhood. The smell, the food, the taste, every single, he was like in heaven. And it hit me at that moment that culture, those traditions matter so much to us. It made him feel whole again. It made him feel like he went back to his youth and he could see that exact tradition passed down in my family. So the little things that come from grandmas, that come from people that we take for granted, that maybe they don't have an advanced degree. We don't remember accounting in a century, but we'll remember the traditions that we do every day in our homes.
And every Christmas, just last Christmas, my mom made this very old recipe of macaroni, and it's Filipino because originally I'm for Filipino, so there's this thing, the macaroni salad, and you add fruits in there, and then you add that. It's like that is her, and that is a tradition that I remember. Okay, Christmas, it's me eating
Yes.
that with family, so it takes you
Yeah.
back.
That's generativity.
Thank you so much. Yeah, exactly. Generativity. Cool. Okay. Dr. Deborah, we're gonna pivot to a spiritual question. So the question for you right now is, spirituality can be deeply personal and diverse. Can you share how your spiritual journey has shaped your understanding of your existence and purpose?
I think that everything that I mentioned was not me intentionally doing anything. I think, like you mentioned, I was guided. It's not like I had a life plan laid out, that there were boxes that I wanted to check. I think that I feel that my purpose has been getting to this point, this long, winding path of going to each of those aha moments to where I am now. And now I have the ability to get to people and connect with them now that we have the technology. It was speaking in the wind when I first started, because there wasn't technology. We didn't have Zoom. We didn't have this way of communicating. So what we used to say in academia was it was like talking to the wind. Unless media picked it up and what would be the equivalent of going viral now, your work was never noticed. So I feel like right now is the time when, spiritually, I have been guided to this point where I can now get this out there. And I'm not talking into the wind anymore. I can talk to lots of people and tell them about this.
And being still and just
Yeah.
follow the flow, I guess.
When a door opens,
yeah.
walk through it.
Wow, you're just dropping nuggets here. Left, right, and center. I love it. So, Dr. Deborah, what is your heart's greatest wish?
My heart's greatest wish is that we'll all be a much more connected. We will capitalize on the silver lining of what happened in the world where we became much more technologically connected. We'll capitalize on that, and we will be bringing really great things to individuals around the world, and we will now know more people and feel more connected with them everywhere. That is my greatest wish.
If you could create a quote right now for you to leave to the audience listening and the world as your legacy, what would
Mentorship changes lives. Mentorship changes the world.
Wow. Now, how can people reach out to you, Dr. Deborah?
Many ways. Check out the book, right? You can reach me that way on Amazon or any other place that you buy books, and it's on audiobook. You can reach me at the Mentor Project, which is mentorproject.org. I have a website, deborahheiser.com. And you can email me, deborahheiser@gmail.com. Reach out to me. I love to talk to people.
Awesome. And there you have it, everyone. You've just heard an inspiring journey and incredible wisdom from Dr. Deborah Heiser. Thank you for sharing the work you're doing to uplift others and make a lasting impact. Despite the challenges, you're paving the way for others, and your dedication is a true testament to resilience and purpose. For our listeners, this has been another thought-provoking episode of You're Worthless. Read that again, the juxtaposition of your very soul. Now, if you've ever felt worthless, know this, you're not alone. But here's the deeper truth. If you were truly worthless, why would your soul choose to be here in this exact moment in this lifetime? Your soul traveled from the infinite, not just to exist, but to matter. And for that reason alone, you are worthy. And with that, I'd like to thank Dr. Deborah Heiser for joining us today, and to all of you for listening. Until next time, I'm Nick Nyaras, your host. Keep shining, keep growing, and remember, you are worthy and you are enough. Love this episode? Now, transformation doesn't end here. Head on to @holistic.lifestyle_with_Nick. That is on my Instagram. Or head on to my website, www.deniaraswholisticlifestyle.com for more info on my coaching framework, which is the Worthy, Authentic, and Abundant Framework, digital guides, and my upcoming events such as retreats and master classes and workshops. Now, I also do intuitive readings where we get to check on